Hello, this is Guillem Godoy. I'm gonna continue a series of videos where we learn how to program with Android Studio. Today we are gonna focus on more artistic stuff because we're gonna try to draw something. Well, more specifically, we're just gonna try to draw squares, okay? So let's move to the programming area. I've already created a new project with an empty activity, and as I usually do, I'm gonna ignore the XML file because we're gonna proceed programmatically. Okay, I'm gonna place everything inside a linear layout as we have already done in previous occasions. So I'm gonna declare this new linear layout. Okay. And before I forget, I'm gonna set the classical parameters like the orientation, for example, to vertical, and the gravity to horizontal, and we set this linear layout as the current content view. Well, now in order to draw, we will need some basic objects. For example, we'll need an image view. Well, really, we just need a view, and well, there are several possibilities. This image view which we create here will be just the view that we will use in order to draw, to display what we will draw later. Okay, so we add it as a view to the linear layout. Okay, and apart from the image view, we will need a bitmap object, which will keep just a map, just a matrix of bits, or yeah, better said, matrix of pixels. Okay, and also a canvas object, which is an object that has several methods which makes it easy to draw on a bitmap. Okay, and also we will need a paint object, which is an object that lets us define some styles such as color, or I don't know whether we want to, yeah, okay, it lets us to give some extra information about how to conduct, how the drawing functions proceed. Okay, well, now we declare we create the bitmap, for example, in this way. And for a bitmap, we need to define its size. I mean, how many pixels it will be working with. Since we want to do this somehow relative to the sizes of our screen, we're gonna get them. Okay, so we want to find out what's the current screen size. Okay, the screen width and the screen height. Okay, a possible way to get this information is by getting the window manager, the default display and example by calling to get metrics. This function expects a display metrics object which we create here. And now we can get what we wanted, which is the screen width. This is in metrics dot with pixels. The script height similarly. It's in 8 pixels. Okay. Well. Okay, now we have the sizes of our screen, but well, let's set a squared area. Well, okay, in order to make this more general, we will have a width and a height for our drawing area. And initially, for example, we will work with this squared area. So both width and height are set to the, for example, the screen width. Okay, now the linear layout, for example, no, sorry, for the image view, we can set its layout params to have width. That's width and height, those we just already defined. And now for the bitmap, we can also set as width and height these same values. But the bitmap, the create bitmap function still expects an extra parameter, which is a config. Parameter which has several options, but among others we can choose this constant here, which means the following. The A stands for alpha, which allows us to define the level of opacity, and RGB stand for the classical red, green, blue. This means that, red, green, blue. This means that we can set a level of transparency here and also a color by defining it in base to the basic colors red, green, and blue. Okay, and each of them will use 8 bits. So in total, we're using 4 bytes, 4 per pixel. Okay. Well, now, yeah, for our image view, we're gonna set as image bitmap the bitmap we just created, and now I'm gonna create also the canvas object, which expects a bitmap as parameter too. Okay. Okay, now we have created everything. I don't know if I forgot. No. I've already added the image view to the linear layout. Well, I think we are almost ready to go. I'm gonna draw a square at the middle of our region. So I'm gonna use the drawRect function, which expects 5 parameters in total. The first 2 define the top left position of a rectangle, and the next 2 parameters expect the bottom right position of the rectangle we want to draw. Okay, well, let me add that the coordinate system of the canvas object assumes that the 0, 0 coordinate is in the top left corner, okay? And the x-axis increases positively moving rightwards, and the white coordinate grows going downwards, okay? Well, I'm gonna try to, for example, the top left position of my rectangle. Well, observe that with halves is exactly in the middle of our working area. If I subtract, oh, we have not yet defined which is the size of our square. Let's give it a name. And for example, we can define it as, for example, a tenth of the width. So if I subtract square size halves, we are moving a half to the left, okay? This way, if we give it a square size, we'll have a centered figure, okay? Well, we proceed similarly with the height. Okay, okay. And for the bottom right coordinate of the square, we proceed similarly, but in this case we have to add the square size halves, okay? Well, and finally we have to give a last parameter, which is the paint object we mentioned before, but we have not yet declared it, okay? So let me do it here. And as I told you, this paint object serves, for example, for defining a color. Okay, for example, we can draw the squares in blue. And yeah, we need to also to set a style here, and for example, in this way we are asking it to draw this rectangle, but filling it to we are asking it to fill it in blue, okay? And well, I don't know if I'm forgetting something extra. Perhaps this is all we need. Well, let's see if it works. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It seems that it would be good to draw also to give a background color, so that we get a clear idea of what's the area we are painting these things. It seems that the blue square was painted correctly, but I'm gonna okay, wait a sec. With this function, we can pass a color and it will paint all the drawing area, for example, in red. Okay. Okay, let me see. Yeah, so apparently it's working. We have a red background and we have drawn the square centered as we wanted. Now, in order to make this more interesting, I'm going to add a button such that once pressed, it will draw an extra square somewhere chosen randomly. Okay, so I'm gonna declare a button here. For example, as text, we can write a new square. Okay, with a sec. And when we press this button, what we're gonna do is creating a new square. But first we need to choose, for example, its horizontal coordinate. We're gonna use the random function which gives us a number between 0 and 1 in order to choose where to place horizontally this square. I'm gonna multiply this number between 0 and 1. If we multiply it by width, it will give us a number between 0 and width, so that we are placing the left coordinate of the square randomly here. But maybe it's a good idea to subtract here the square size, because note that if the rightmost position is chosen, then the square will be drawn outside the drawing area. Okay, this way we make sure that we are drawing it inside. Well, it seems that there's an issue with the cast. We need to cast this to integer, and now we proceed similarly with the vertical coordinates. Okay, once this is done, we can now draw the rectangle. Now I could copy this here, but I'm thinking of creating like a function in order to carry out the drawing of the rectangles. I mean, in order not to repeat, okay, maybe this won't be repeating too much, but later probably I would like to draw an outline, okay, to stroke also the rectangle. So in order to avoid too much repetition of code, I'm gonna create this extra function which I call draw rect. And here we simply do this. But with the coordinates that we are receiving and the paint object that we have already declared. Okay. Well, so now I'm gonna adapt. Okay, so I'm gonna call here to draw rect, but with these parameters. And now we don't need to specify the paint object because it's already used inside there. And here we now want to draw another rectangle, but giving as coordinates the top left position that we already obtained randomly, and remember the square size of our squares is precisely square size. Okay, so in this way we're drawing an extra rectangle whenever we press the button. Okay, well, let's see if this is working. Well, the button is not showing up, but that's because I forgot to add it to the linear layout. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, we have the button here, and it seems that it is placing squares randomly as expected. Well, what is not nice here is that when several squares are drawn quite close to each other, they become difficult to distinguish, and that's because we have not drawn their outline. Okay, this is what I told before that we could do. Well, for that we will need an extra paint object. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna rename the previous one to paint fill. Okay, rename it everywhere. Because, well, that's just for clarity, because we're gonna have another paint object called paint stroke. Sorry. And in this case, for example, okay, the style in this case will be stroke, and for example, we can choose yellow color. Okay, and we're gonna use it to stroke the square. Okay, and that's it. Let's see if this works. Well, it seems to me that it's working, but the stroke line is so thin that it's almost non-visible. Okay, so yeah, let's set this line to be a little bit thicker. For example, 4 pixels. Okay, now this looks better. Well, so I'm gonna leave my programming here, but before I go, I want to propose you some possible changes that you could try to program in order to practice and get more used to this drawing environment. Okay. So, for example, we added a button that adds a new square placed randomly. You could try to add an extra button in order to draw a circle and place it randomly too, okay? Or you could also add a new button that draws a triangle at a place chosen randomly. Okay, for that you will have to carry out some research in order to see what functions are available in order to draw circles and to draw triangles or maybe general polygons. Okay, so that can be interesting too in order to get used um, to look for what one needs in order to proceed, okay, or to reach our goals. Well, so I think it's enough for today. I'm gonna leave it here. I hope you liked this video and you can make the most of it. And see you soon in a future video. Okay, so goodbye.